This is an exam question on natural selection, and it says explain what is meant by the term natural selection, and it's worth 5 marks. So we're going to need at least 5 scientific bullet points here. So natural selection is the mechanism for evolutionary change. It starts off with variation in the population. All organisms of the same species will show variation. There will be competition within the species. Or different selection pressures. For example, there may be competition for food, for mates, for water, if your plants, for light, for minerals. There might be different selection pressures, for example, predation, disease. And therefore, some organisms will have a selective advantage. So that might be specific features. For example, horns. That means that they've got a survival advantage, so they're more likely to survive. So therefore, the survival of the fittest. The organisms that have got the selective advantage, the specific features, are more likely to outcompete the organisms that don't have the specific features and therefore more likely survive. That means they're going to survive to reproduce and pass on the alleles for those features. To the next generation. Which means the frequency of these alleles will increase in the population. If the organisms carrying the alleles are surviving to reproduce, they're going to pass on the alleles, and the alleles are going to increase in the population. A final point that you could mention is that in terms of competition, many organisms overproduce in terms of offspring. And that ensures the survival of the fittest. Only the offspring with the selective advantages are more likely to survive. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 marking points there. We'd need to mention 5 of them. Right, the final definition, it says explain what is meant by the term species. So, definition of species are members of a population which can interbreed. So that's the first thing you've got to say, to produce fertile offspring. So, for example, horses and donkeys can reproduce to make a mule, but the mule is infertile. Therefore, horses and donkeys are classed as a different species. They've also got similar morphological biochemical, behavioral, and physiological features. You need to say at least 2 of those. So morphological, their body structure; biochemical, chemical processes that are going inside the body, for example, the amino acid, base sequence, hemoglobin; behavioral, how the organisms are behaving; and physiological, how the body actually functions. You'd need at least 2 of those points. You could also say that members of a species occupy the same niche, and niche is their role in an ecosystem or habitat, and all the members of the same species will occupy that same niche and play the same role.